This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going back to 1914 and we're going to a place where it is frigid and cold and all above. Your limbs are going to be going numb because we're going to be in the Antarctic region and we're going to be looking at what happened to a ship called the Endurance. Today we're looking at Expedition Endurance. This is the latest scenario from T.I.M.E Stories. So I'm going to just show you a tiny bit of the art without spoiling anything in detail. Then I'll get to my final thoughts and I'll break it down. I'll give you some general ideas and then I'll go into spoilers, but I'll warn you before I go there. Let's take a look. I'm not going to show you any details of the characters or anything else. I just kind of want to give you a flavor of what the art style is in this game. This is some of the characters that you can choose to be. And here's a few more characters that you can choose to be in the game with this stylistic approach. Alright, now there's T.I.M.E Stories. Now guys, T.I.M E Stories in general was the game of my year in 2015, and I've loved the scenarios that have come out. And so you're probably going to wonder, hey, is it still good? Where does it rank among the other ones? And let me just go generally without talking about things in too much detail, so those that just want to get a gauge as to how good I thought this one was. My favorite one still is the first one, Asylum, that came out. And then the second one was Marcy Case. That's my second favorite. Then the next one in the middle there sort of was the last one, the Under the Mask. And this one is right about with that. Not bad, didn't blow my mind, but it wasn't like I didn't dislike it. And of course on the bottom for me was Prophecy of Dragons, which was my least liked one. However, many people have liked Prophecy of Dragons as their favorite, so it's definitely a personal thing. This one was sort of middle of the road for me. And again, middle of the road for T.I.M E Stories is better than most games that you'll play all year, at least in my opinion. And one more thing to mention before I start to get into any more details, that this is not one that you'd be able to play with kids. I think, I heard Prophecy of Dragons is easy. Some people have played with their kids. Even Under the Mask, you could have taken, there's one or two characters that had a little bit revealing. But other than that, you could have played that one with kids. This one's back to that sort of weird, bizarre, dark sort of theme. Sort of like the first two where it's like you wouldn't want to play this with kids, so just be warned about that. I'm going to start going into some details as to why it was that way. So if you don't want to hear anything more, sometimes anyone can say that anything is a spoiler. If that's you, turn it off now. So why is this in the middle of the road? Well, like most of the T.I.M E Stories, each of them are very different. They all have sort of a newer mechanism in each of them, and they all do things differently. This is no different. This one does have something that's different about it from all the rest. It's fresh, it's new, and that twist or difference, actually there's two different twists and differences that they do things differently in this one. And they're both good. I like that they both bring some freshness to it. They're unique. And when it happens, you're like, oh, that's cool, just like that. So I'm not going to say anything more, but there is a twist, just like all the other ones that do things differently, and it was well welcomed, and I think it was well done. A lot of the people have a lot of the complaints, including myself, were that some of the rules are not clear. Some of the cards have misprints and things like that. This one seemed to be a lot clearer than the other ones, and maybe they finally sort of cracked that nut, been able to kind of learn from those mistakes of sort of going to market without rushing through things. However, I did find two pretty, what I think are misprints is at the end of the game, not going to spoil anything. In the last room, there's a couple of things you're doing, and the cards don't have what type of task it is. The logo was mixed up. Now, guessing by the text that's on there, we can guess what type of a task it was, both of them to do, but it seems like two of the cards that are at the very end and the height of the climax were missing an icon, which, yeesh, kind of bad, but all in all, there wasn't a lot of confusion of rules like on many of the other ones, just two misprints, and if you read into it, I think you could figure it out, but still, missing something like that, there you go. Now, this one I was really interested in because this was the first one that they had designed sort of after hearing feedback. The first four were all sort of designed right around the same time or within, to the point where the last one was done before the first one came out. And so they've had a ton of feedback of what people liked, what people didn't like. And I really thought that they were going to take a lot of that in there and put it into this one. And I'm not sure they quite did. It still just feels kind of like some of the other ones, but different, as I mentioned before. But like, for example, a lot of people are saying, hey, let's have some more puzzles and let's have it feel more like that. And it's not like this one. So again, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper, nothing in detail, but I'm gonna give some generalizations as to what's in this one and what's not. If you've heard enough, turn it off. If you wanna keep going, stay tuned. This one really only had one puzzle, and it wasn't a big puzzle. It was a very short puzzle, and quite honestly, you're either going to know it or you're not by the time you see the puzzle. And so it's not like that, and you have a 25% chance of guessing it right. And so, you know, not a lot of puzzles. I liked Asylum the best because there were so many of these awesome, cool puzzles that you had to figure out, and mazes, and just different, unique puzzles. So it didn't have a lot of that. It had one puzzle. It was pretty easy, and you either knew it or you didn't. So not a whole lot of puzzles in there. Not a whole lot of combat in this one. There is some, but most of the dice rolling is sort of just the other types of quests, and I didn't even go over what types of things are in here. They're different from the other ones, the different icons, different things you can do. But it's not combat heavy like, say, Marcy Case or Prophecy of Dragons, where there's just all dice rolling. It's not like that. This one was more about going here, going there, maybe getting this, what does this do, kind of feeling out the place, and then going through that a few times until you figure out all the things you need and where you get to go. So it was pretty much of a straightforward one in that regard, but again, there were two big twists here that they did things differently that I thought were cool. Now, there were some that did take, so I'm going to talk about how long it took me and how many runs and stuff, so if you don't want to hear this, turn it off. It took me 4 runs to get through it, and it took just under 3 hours in total. So 2 hours and 47 minutes it took me to do this. Now, another interesting thing is there was, and I'm giving, again, more information here, there was only one item. Actually, at this point, I'm going to say, I'm going to start really giving you some spoilers here. So if you haven't played the game yet, you should shut it off now, because I'm going to start talking about things that are very specific to the scenario that you'll want to come back and probably see what I thought after you've played it. So at this point, all bets are off. I was surprised that there was only one item or anything that had that special logo on it, so that you could go and keep it after one run. Especially, by the way, the first run where you flip over the card in the boiler and you're like, yeah, we only have 12 time. What the heck? And you go through this and you're trying to rush around. We got to every room except one of them. And we're always wondering the whole game, well, what happens? Because as you come back, the ice goes away. You're there 2 days previous. We just thought that was so cool that you're going through the boiler and now it's not frozen. And other rooms are frozen, but you're getting to see things like the day or two before. And I thought that was one of the coolest aspects of the game, and it hit you right off the bat. So it really grabbed you right off the bat. I really liked that aspect of it. But I'm surprised that there's only one item, because in this, I felt like I had to do pretty multiple runs, and I had to go through the same rooms to get towards the end, like the last 2 runs. And so I was just surprised that some of those maps and some of the things weren't ones that you can keep forever, because I think those are the points that aren't the best part of the game, is running through the same thing multiple times. My last 2 runs, I had to do a lot of that. I wish that maybe they had a couple of those extra like icons that you could have not had to have gone here to there to there to there just to get the location you needed. It would have given you more time to go off and get the different items that would have been good, like the cleaver and the shotgun and the knife and different things that would have helped you with attacking and different things like that. I loved the dog. I loved the pack of dogs. That was awesome, allowing you to reroll, things like that. I loved the insanity aspect of this thing. That was just a really cool thing where, hey, you got to do these tests, you're going to go nuts if you pull the guy out of the boiler, and you might go nuts and you might have some crazy thing, and then you're not going to tell anybody, and like certain crazy things happen, like, hey, if everybody comes here, you're going to roll one less die, but nobody knows. And if this happens, you're going to flip the card over, read it, something worse is going to happen. I liked that. It almost felt kind of like a Crossroads game where you know something that nobody else knows. Not that you have a whole lot of choices in some of those, but I thought that was an interesting mix of this. And so both new things and twists here I really liked. The insanity thing and that sort of twist of the beginning, that going back in time, within time. I thought that was really cool. Now, I was a little disappointed at this one. Again, it's another darker theme. You couldn't play this with kids. So I'd rather be able to do that. And then the last thing I'll probably mention is that crazy room 666. Okay, how many of you out there looked at that room and went, you know, I got done with the game. I'm like, okay, we're in the last room. Okay, if you beat this guy, you're successful. And I'm thinking, this can't be it. We didn't go to room 666 yet. So at the end, of course, I laid it out. I looked at it because, I mean, to review the game, I need to go back. I looked through all the items. I looked through all the rooms that I missed. I looked to make sure that there's things that I didn't miss that I want to get into the review. But it was funny because you read it and it's like, hey, because it's on the top, it says, if you die, you're the first one to read this. If you're the first one to die, you read this card. And you read it and it's like, if anybody else reads this room on any of these cards, you get rid of one of your beacons. I'm like, what? It's like a crazy mind screw that, like, hey, I gotta get rid of my beacons because we were just curious as to what is a room we never got to. I thought that was kind of funny. So I'm sure some people are not gonna like that. But it had some interesting things in the storyline in some of those cards. There was something about 9 cubes, and over the course of the games we get these cubes. Are they all tied together? Do we need to get 9 of them by the end of this thing? I don't know, but I thought that was kind of funny that whole thing pulled together with that room 666. Again, it was just kind of a weird thing they threw in. Maybe they had some extra cards in the lot and they needed to do something with them or whatever, but I thought that was kind of interesting. So overall, I thought this one was cool. We ended up doing a lot with the dog. The dog pack was huge and fighting towards the end and re-rolling a lot. But the last couple runs, it was just getting the things we needed, getting through all the different locations and getting there and getting it done. So overall, I like this one. I enjoyed it. Again, it's not my favorite, but it's not the worst. Somewhere in the middle there, along with the Under the Mask. But overall, thoroughly enjoyed it, and that is Expedition Endurance.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter and making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.